Now we are doing the Dvar Malchut. Oh, good. What did we say yesterday? Yesterday, this is the Dvar Malchut. This is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1991, the end of 1991, Tafshin Nun Beit, about this week's Torah portion. And where do we see this week's Torah portion? That has a very special lesson to the Jewish people, very special lesson to the Jewish people. And that is that Yehuda is coming close to Yosef. Yehuda is on the bottom. He's begging Yosef for mercy to let his brother go. And that's a big lesson to us. Says the Rebbe, what type of a lesson is that to us? What are we supposed to learn for this? That Yehuda is lower than Yosef. He said, yeah, but that's not a very good message. I mean, Yehuda represents Moshiach. And Yosef represents like the big tzaddikim. So, I mean, Yosef is the king. So are we waiting for Mashiach? Mashiach is the lowest. Mashiach is subservient to holiness and learning Torah and being great in Torah and being a genius and being a well-known person. That's the goal, to be like Yosef, to be big, like be a king. And Yehuda, that's like the Jewish people were supposed to be on the bottom, groveling and begging. So what's the point? Says the Rebbe, no. If you look at this week's Haftorah from Ezekiel, so you see that it says, no, the King David from Yehuda, he's going to be the Mashiach. He's going to be the Mashiach. He's going to rule over. So here we see in this week's Torah portion exactly the opposite. He said, because here we're talking about how to bring Mashiach. Yosef is the lowest. Yosef is a nobody. I'm sorry. Yehuda is the lowest. Yehuda is nobody. Yosef is the king. Yosef is greatness, highness. The simple Jews are like nothing. Says that's now. That's the way things are now. How are we going to change things? Says take the example of how Yosef was approached by Yehuda. Yehuda approached Yosef and said that he was also ready for war. Yehuda approached Yosef with chutzpa. Yehuda was a nobody. He had no power. He had no abilities. He was outnumbered, who knows, 1,000,000 to 1. All of Egypt was against Yehuda. Yosef was the king of Egypt. Everyone was on his side. Yehuda was virtually alone. Nevertheless, he approached Joseph and said, I'm approaching you now. Please don't get angry. In other words, he approached him in a way that there was a reason to suppose that Yosef should be offended and get angry with chutzpah. He was not afraid. Yehuda did not demonstrate any fear whatsoever. And that's how we have to be in the world. We have to, for Judaism, for the Jewish people, we have to demonstrate what they call chutzpah, fearlessness for holiness, for Judaism. Okay, what exactly that means, what we have to be demonstrating for, we'll talk about that. That's not the point. It becomes clear for Torah, for the commandments, for Jewish identity, that we have to be clear about. And now the situation in the world, I mean, is, demanding that of the Jews. Suddenly Jews are being forced to take a stand. Jews that previously, just wanted to be part of the wallpaper, and I'm just another person in university, fighting for BDS or whatever they're fighting for. And all of a sudden say, yeah, we hate you. So no, but I also hate Jews. Yeah, you're a Jew. We hate you. No, I also hate me. It doesn't make any difference. You're not one of us. You're faking it. You don't really hate yourself. We really hate you. You're just pretending to hate us because you're pretending to hate yourself. because you want to be like us, but you're not fooling us. You really are a Jew. You never hate yourself as much as we hate you, no matter how much you pretend. Say, no, look, I'll do anything you want. I'll prove it to you how much I hate Jews. You're not going to be part of it. So the guy's got no choice. What is this Jewish thing? I think I told you this before. I mean, basically, that's how I became religious. I went to a lecture from a big professor, and he said this anti-Semitic statement, and it started to woke me up. And I thought the Jews were not important at all. If they were important, there was I didn't know anything about it. So and if they're important, here all of a sudden this guy says that not only are the Jews important, they're important enough to hate them. They get on his nerves. I don't even know what they are. What is a Jew? Why should they get on somebody's nerves? This guy's a big professor. He's not just some guy from the street that everything bothers him. He's a person that uses his mind. He thinks. Suddenly he realized maybe there really is something to this Judaism business. Says the Rebbe, not only is there something to the Judaism, but the more you realize it, you realize that you have to defy the whole entire world. And defying the world means not to destroy or go against the world. It means to defy the negativity and the how do you say the death wish of the world. To defy the world, that we're going to bring life into the world, we're going to bring meaning into the world, we're going to bring blessing into the world, despite what all these people, like Mordechai Yehudi, right? We're going to defy Haman. No, how is this going to be? Let's see. That's what Yehuda did. Yehuda, he defied with defiance, approached Yosef, who was the king of the whole world. But we have to explain this. That what we said before, but Tokif, about the defiance, the power of defiance of Yehuda. Vayigash of Yehuda. 1 minute, let me just make this here. Yeah. Yehuda, Hari, Haya, was according to Kasal Kadaitach, according to the assumption of Yehuda that Yosef was really the viceroy. He was really the king of the Umat Olam, of the world. Right? It says that Paro ruled the whole world, and Yosef was practically, he was the one that was really ruling. And Paro was the de jure ruler, but Yosef was a de facto ruler of the whole world. So Yehuda thought that Yosef was the king. Lifnei, because Shehidvada Yosef, Lifnei, Lifnei Shehidvada, before Yosef admitted to his brothers, he revealed himself to his brothers. Right? We're going to see in today's, I hope everybody does chitat, but in the Chumash, so it says that Yosef is concealing himself from his brothers, right? So his brothers, they think that, wow, we're really in hot water. The brothers thought that they were finished, right? Here, Yosef, he took Benjamin, and he took him away, and he said, that's it. He's going to be my slave forever, and you guys are never going to see him again. And the brothers thought, wow, we lost. We're the lowest of the low. The world is against us. We're helpless. What are we going to do? They were just the bottom of the bottom. And suddenly Yosef said, you know what, guys? I'm your brother. And everything, one instant, everything turned around. Instead of the whole world being against them, suddenly they are the brother of the king of the world. But then they thought, wow, 1 second, we sold him into captivity. Everything flipped around again. Maybe he's going to take it out on us. And he said, don't worry, I still love you. Maybe you thought to do bad, but God arranged the whole thing. It came out to good. Oh, then it flips around. So just one word, you see how intellect changes emotions. What you think causes what you feel. They thought that Yosef was the king and he was against them, so they were intimidated. All of a sudden, they realized Yosef was their brother. Oh, now suddenly they're happy that they're not afraid at all. Suddenly they said, oh, maybe Yosef is going to take it out on us. Oh, they're intimidated again. Yosef said, no, I'm your friend. I love you. Oh, they're happy. So we see just ideas change people's minds. That's the whole idea of Chabad also. Thinking about God in a real way, it changes your emotions to God. Okay, let's go. So it says, that's the whole idea. They thought that Yosef was the king. They thought that Yosef was against them. Hagam, even though Shebenogea Latokef Shel Yehuda, even though in regarding to the power of defiance of Yehuda, it made no difference whether Yosef was a simple guy in the street or he was the king of the universe, right? Yehuda was going to go against him. He didn't care what was going to happen to him. Sharihu lo yada shezeh Yosef. Yehuda, when he approached Yosef with this chutzpah, he didn't know that it was his brother. But after Yosef revealed himself, Hari lefi amiti tenyanim, in truth, kavar lo zukukim, then you don't need this defiance anymore of Yehuda kadei lipol, in order to yachazubo, in order to take the world. Oh, this was like Napoleon, right? As long as Napoleon and the church opposed Judaism in every way. They tried to get the Jews, right? That's the purpose of that religion. Like Christianity, the whole thing is just to destroy Judaism, to swallow up the Jews, to get them all to change the religion, to force them to change the religion, to kill them, to do anything they can to get them to change. That was the church. Napoleon was the nicest guy in the world. You don't have to oppose me. I like you. You're my friend. I'll accept you, whatever you want to. So you might think, when do we need defiance? Is when the enemy is clear. But when the enemy is not an enemy anymore, when the enemy is our friend, then we don't see it anymore. Just 1 second. Exactly the opposite. But Pashto is simply the tokef, the yochazu bo aliyah Yosef. Exactly the opposite. Simply, it seems that Yehuda didn't need, once Yosef revealed himself, that he's their brother, and so now there's no need for this defiance anymore. Exactly the opposite. Their power came from Yosef. Now they're part of the world. The world will elevate them. Like Napoleon will elevate the Jews. We're going to be high. Yosef said, you don't have to worry anymore, fellows. And you don't have to be defiant anymore. I'm your brother. God sent me here to elevate you. Now you're going to become great in Egypt. The Jewish people will become great. In the merit of Yosef, Paro said, Tov kol Eretz Mitzrayim, the best of the land of Egypt, belongs to you. Tziva latet lahem, gave them Meitiva, or it's the best place in the world. And Eretz Mitzrayim was the best place in the world. And that the Jewish people now were settled down, and they became tremendously successful, and they became fruitful, and they multiplied. Similarly, we have to understand also in the Haftorah, Mekivan, since that the power of Yehuda was only at that time, temporarily, Lifnei, before it was revealed that it was Yosef, as Eza Sheichos Yesh Lezen L'Tokef Shel Yehuda B'Haftorah. If so, we see that in the future that the Mashiach is going to come from Yehuda. Why? We thought that the whole thing of the Mashiach is the defiant power of the Jews, and we won't need that in the future. It says, David Avdi Nasi Aleim Lo'olam, we'll be the rulers. The world will go according to what God wants. We won't need this power of defiance and courage. And exactly the opposite. We keep in Yosef Hatzadik, since Yosef Hatzadik is the owner, he is the ruler of Egypt, and like it's revealed afterwards. So Harizil Lechiora, this is exactly the opposite of what the Haftorah is. What does the Haftorah say? The Haftorah says that Boma Dubar Odet Aliyat Yehuda Lagabi Yosef, that Yehuda is going to be greater than Yosef. David Avdi Nasi Aleim Lolam. If the whole uniqueness of Yehuda is this power of defiance, to overcome obstacles, to not be afraid of the world. So once the world is on your side, so you don't need this defiance anymore. So why is Yehuda the one that's going to be Mashiach? The whole thing of Yehuda is just this power of being able to defy the world, Chutzpa. And you won't need that once the world is on your side. The same thing over here. Yehuda comes close to Yosef. Yehuda demonstrates this unique thing that even Yosef doesn't have, the power to be against the whole world, not to care, right? And to defy the whole world. And that's the uniqueness of Yehuda. But once Yosef reveals himself, so Yehuda isn't unique anymore. You don't need Yehuda. right? You don't need this defiance. You don't need that there's overcoming obstacles. There's no obstacles. So why is the Mashiach going to come from Yehuda? Why, says the Rebbe, another way of asking the question is, and according to the true way of looking at it, that Yosef was a tzaddik and he ruled the world, Yosef. So Yosef, he was the power of the Jewish people in Egypt. Joseph was a Jew. That's a Jew. Yosef is a Jew. He ruled over everything. Huh? Then you don't have to have this unique power of defiance and overcoming and how do you say, a victory of Yehuda. But so if so, what are we learning? We're going to see. But since and everything in the Torah are true and they are eternal, also the also the supposition in the Torah, and especially in our case, so the fact that Yehuda came close to Yosef and needed this defiant power to come to Yosef, so this was not just an idea. This was, in fact, good. Yehuda made a mistake. Yehuda thought that he was the king and that he was against them. But the fact is good. He didn't care. The fact is that even if Yosef really was the king, even if it was Paro that really was against them, Yehuda wouldn't have cared. He would have gone against him. It would have shown his power of overcoming a victory. So if so, we have to say that this defiant power of Yehuda, Vayigashal of Yehuda, it's not just a temporary thing that has to be used only in certain situations when it's like really necessary. Elohu poel chidush afilu legabi tokfa for Joseph. This is even relevant to the power of Yosef in that time. Specifically in this, you can be v'yechazubo, that it was not through the grace of Yosef that Yosef, he was the king, and he gracefully he gave them, how to say, gratis, freely gave to Yehuda and his brothers the part of Egypt. In other words, that Yosef gave them this nice land in Egypt. No, it wasn't. The fact of the matter is that all along, the whole thing, even after Yosef revealed himself, and Yosef said, now I'm the king, you don't have any more worries, Yehuda did not stop being defiant. And in fact, this power of defiance is the essence of what a Jew is constantly. And that's what's going to bring Mashiach. David Avdi Nasi Aleim. How? We'll see. Let's see. We can say, this is understood from what it says, that Yehuda shlach lefanav el Yosef lahorot lifnav Goshna. It says that Yehuda was sent before. What happens in the story? Yosef reveals himself to his brothers. He says, I'm your brother Yosef. And he cries and he's happy. He says, now go back to Israel and tell your father to come here. The world is still in a big famine, right? There's still a famine in the world. Tell your father not to worry. He's my father too. My father. Go back to Israel. That's where Yaakov was. And tell Yaakov to come here. I want to see him. And we'll all be together. Right? So all the brothers go back and to bring their father. And it says, let's go back to Egypt. Yosef is the king of Egypt. Good news, Dad. Yosef is alive. First of all, he's alive. And not only is Yosef alive, but you won't believe this, he's the king of the whole entire world. And he wants us to come down to Egypt, that's where he lives, and be his guests, because he's the king of Egypt. So what did his father do? He says, okay, Yehuda, you go first to the land of Goshen. Right? He said, Yosef is going to give us this land of Goshen. Yaakov says to his son, Yehuda, you go first, and you go to Goshen. What? He said, lahorot, to teach. To teach what? He said, lifnot lo makom, to teach everyone, to teach us how we should settle down over there. Right? You go to Goshen first. You'll be there a couple of days, whatever, before us. and you'll make the plans, right? How we're going to settle down there, what type of houses we should make, and etc. Simple meaning. That's what Yosef is going to do. That's what Yehuda is going to do. Says the Rebbe, what did Yaakov have to send Yehuda to figure out how to dwell in Goshen? Because it was a new place. It wasn't a new place. Yosef was the king. Yosef knew how to settle the place. Yosef knew how to do everything. Yosef saved the whole world. For sure, all they had to do was go to Yosef and say, Yosef, tell us how to build buildings, where we should settle. Yosef knew everything. Yosef gave them the best place of the land of Egypt to Yaakov and his sons. Why did Yehuda have to go down there in order to survey the place first? He says, from this, it's understood that you have to have the power of Yehuda there first. Yehuda has to go there first, and he has to settle the place, not how to build buildings and architecture and how to make whatever it is, the how do you call it? The sewer systems or whatever. Who knows what they made over there? No. Yehuda had to go there to set the precedent of what Jewish attitude has to be, how the Jewish people should settle the land emotionally, spiritually. What should their be approach? But Yeshlama, we can say that it means like this: Hatokef shel Yehudi, the power of a Jew in this world, and in the time of exile, all the kingships, all of the exiles that we've been in are called Egypt. The Jewish people eventually, yes, true, they're going to build the first temple, but the second temple is going to be destroyed, and the Jewish people are going to be scattered around the world. Now, this being scattered around the world can be in two ways. First of all, Hatokef Shalom, the power of the Jewish people, is only Lefi Efshari, only according to what is possible. How do you say what is easiest? Lefi Klalim Shachuki Atava, according to nature, V'Hanagas Olam, and the world. La'alderach says similarly in the time of exile. Kafia Medida Vagbala, according to the measure and the limits of exile. Chukia Medina. You're a Jew in exile, do Judaism only according to the place where you are. Don't make waves. Eventually it became, he said, you have to be a Jew at home, Yehudi bebeitecha, and when you go out on the street, you're like everybody else. Adam beteitecha. Hu omad legamri, he is standing totally above anything of the world. But umot olam, and that's one way. One way is fit in with everybody else, right? Be like part of the scenery. You're a Jew, don't have to wear a kippah. Yeah, if you do, you put a hat on. Torah mitzvahs, you don't have to advertise that you're a Jew. You don't have to. That's number one. Number two is that you're among the non-Jews, but you stand above what the non-Jews do. How much more so from the exile? You're not affected by the exile at all. Adarabah. Hum mitnag imam betokif. You are defiant. Until you have the. Now, being defiant doesn't mean to be irritating. Doesn't mean to be irritating. It doesn't mean to make people feel bad. You're supposed to be pleasant. You're supposed to be proper. When you dress, it has to be clean. You have to be dressed properly. But it doesn't mean that you have to take your shirt off because everybody else takes their shirt off. But it doesn't mean that you have to, wear whatever it is, a red hat with a big feather on it because everybody is doing that. Anything that's even the slightest way against the Torah, you don't do. You don't do. But on the other hand, everything that is according to the Torah, you do. And in fact, maybe even a little bit more. Everything you have the power to do, l'shanot, to change the laws of the country, or even the customs of the country, you should do the tokef, that the defiant power of a Jew, the courage of a Jew, Poel brings about, Yehudi, that a Jew, even in the time of exile, even if you live in France or Germany, wherever, excuse me, it does not only rule, and a balabayat, and is the, how do you say, the owner, they say the manager over the non-Jews in the time of exile, according to the way the world goes. Ela ba'ofen shehu nimsa legamri lamayli, is totally above that. Let's just take a simple example nowadays. Chanukah, the Chabad decided they're going to make big Chanukah menorahs everywhere in the world, big ones, and that they're going to be out on the street, and they're going to invite the mayor, and they're going to invite the governor, and they're going to invite the president. They're going to make a Chanukah menorah that's 2 stories high, 3 stories high, the biggest, the highest, the greatest Chanukah menorah that could possibly be, that everyone will see. As soon as Chabad started to do this, then the Reform Judaism and the Reform and the conservative Judaism, which really that's not a form of Judaism at all. But anyway, the Reform and conservative, with the whole essence of what Reform and conservative is, not to make waves, to fit in with the spirit of the times, right? Not to be too religious, not to be too crazy, to be normal, to be regular. Some people a lot normal, to be a little bit normal. You have to be somewhat normal. As soon as Chabad started putting these menorahs out, they went berserk. They even took Chabad to the court. The court says there's going to be another Holocaust. It's going to be terrible, all because of you, right? So Chabad did it, and nothing bad happened. Nowadays, there's big anti-Semitism in America. So what's the natural thing to do? Hide the Chanukiah, take it inside. No, Chabad said we're not going to hide it. If there's a decree, you have to move the Chanukiah, a specific decree. You do everything you can to to rescind this decree, to go around the decree, to make a detour around it. It doesn't work. Okay, then you do what the country says. You do what you do what the government says. But your thing is to defy anything that stands against Judaism. It says the Moshiach is going to fight the battles of God. That's the battles of God. The defiance of Yehuda. To express your Judaism no matter where you are. And to say, I am a representative of the creator of the universe. Here we see it in really big. I mean, I'll please bear with me only for half a minute, right? The whole world is saying the land of Israel belongs to the Palestinians. What are they going to do with the land of Israel? It's the holy land. They're not holy. They don't even know what holy means. But do the Jews know what holy means? Do the Jews know that this land was given to us by God? Oh, they have to be defiant. They have to defy you can't say a thing like that. Nobody's going to accept it. That's the reason they hate it. It's not the reason they hate us. They hate us because we're Jews and we're representatives of God, whether we we advertise it or not. All these people that they killed in Kfar Berry, all these thousands of people, what is that? The hundreds of people they killed, they were not religious Jews. They were not religious Jews. They were not doing a religious thing. They were making a big party on Shabbat. They didn't demonstrate any religious thing. Why did they kill them? Because they're holy, because they're Jews, and every Jew is holy. In fact, that's the only reason they killed them, not because they were religious or because they demonstrated any Judaism or Zionism or anything like that. They killed them only one reason, because they're Jews, and every Jew is holy, whether they know it or not. And that holiness is what we have to not hide. That holiness is what we have to not conceal. That's the essence of Yehuda. That holiness we have to defy the whole world with, because that holiness is light, and a little bit of light pushes away darkness. And people like darkness. People love darkness. People don't want to be uncovered. Criminals don't like it when there's a surveillance camera where there's people. In a way that it's totally above this. That's what a Jew has to be. Every Jew, and we're not talking about big Jews and religious Jews and special Jews, every single Jew. The Yuvan said we can understand this according to what it says in the way of Mordechai Yehudi. Take the example of Mordechai in the time of Achashverosh. Mordechai was in a situation of Doma, something like Yehuda when he was standing in front of Yosef. Since that the Jewish people were then in the exile of Persia, Madai, and Greece, and they were under the rulership of, of the king Achashverosh. This is, when did the miracle of Purim happen? Right before the second temple was built. Right at the end of the 70 years of exile that they were in, right before it was built. That's when the whole thing happened. Achashverosh, he was the king of the whole world. He was the king of the whole entire world, Achashverosh. And Achashverosh made a decree to kill all the Jews. So Mordechai was in a really bad situation. What to do? Nevertheless, what did Mordechai do? He gathered all the Jewish children together, and he said, we're going to learn Torah in public. Now, according to the way the Chabad explains the miracle of Purim, it's a little bit different than everybody else. In fact, it's a lot different from everybody else. The way that Chabad explains the miracle of Purim is as follows. King Achashverosh made a decree to kill all the Jews. Kill all the Jews. Jews are not stupid. A lot of, even to this day, Jews are good lawyers. Some of the best lawyers are Jews. And every Jew is a little bit of a lawyer. And here we have a big clause, an empty, a lacuna in the law. Kill all the Jews. Anyone who said, I'm not Jewish, say 3 words, I'm not Jewish, that's it. All you have to do is declare, I'm not Jewish. Put a sign on your door, I'm not Jewish. If you did that, then the non-Jews had no right to kill you. The decree was to kill all the Jews. It was free game for Jews. But if you put a sign, I'm not Jewish, then that's it. Right? And they had no way of knowing who was a Jew or not. If it's open deer season and I put a sign on a deer, I'm not a deer, you can see that it's a deer and I'm not a deer. But a Jew, you don't know if it's a Jew or not. So a Jew, just all he has to do is say, I'm not Jewish, that's all. Maybe he has to take his mezuzah off of his door or something, but all he has to do, they looked like everybody else, they acted like everybody else. I'm not Jewish. So it says that Mordechai convinced all the Jews, just by example, that not one Jew said or even thought to say, I'm not Jewish. Children, women, old people, no one thought to say. All they had to do was say 3 words, and there was no decree on them. No decree. They had no fear. They could live in peace. Say 3 words. I'm not Jewish. Not one Jew did it. That's insane. That is insane. You remove from yourself so much worry, aggravation, anxiety, death itself, by just denying your Judaism. What's the big deal? And you're not even doing it really. You're just saying it. Not one Jew did it. That's defiance. And this defiance is in every Jew. And this is the defiance that Mordechai inspired in every Jew. And that's the defiance that the Lubavitcher Rebbe wants to inspire in me and you. Every single Jew in the world. That's what Mordechai did. Okay, so in the time of Achashverosh, Achashverosh was in a similar, Mordechai compared to Achashverosh was similar like Yehuda and Yosef. Even since the Jewish people were then in the exile of what's called Persia, the Tachat Shilton, under the rulership of Achashverosh. Abde Achashverosh Anan. It says even to this day, we're still to a certain degree the slaves of Achashverosh. We never really got out. Not like the days of Hanukkah that they were in the time of the Holy Temple. In the time of Purim, there was no Holy Temple yet. Hanukkah came after, right? They came like 200 years something after the miracle of Purim. Nevertheless, how did Mordechai act? Mordechai did not bow down, and he didn't even bend down. He didn't bend down and he didn't bow down. He says that Haman sat and he had a little idol, and all the Jews bowed down to Haman, everyone except for Mordechai. Even though that all of the servants of the king, they bowed down and they prostrated themselves in front of Haman, because that's the commandment of the king. But Mordechai was the only one. Ahmad Kachi stood strongly, just like Yehuda did. Even the servants, even that everyone was bowing down, and the servants of the king said, Madua ata overet mitzvat hamelech. Read in the Megillah. Why are you transgressing the commandment of the king? Why? Lemishte Shel Melech, in regarding to the meal that Achashverosh wrote. It says in the Megillas Esther that this was how the king decreed. Lasot kiratzon ish v'ish, says that the king made a big meal. What was the story over there? We're going to have to stop in another minute. What was the story in Purim? The story starts off with a meal. That's how the Megillah of Esther starts off with a big, huge meal. That the king Achashverosh makes a big meal, and he invites all the Jews. He makes a meal for 6 months, right? 6 months. It says 180 days. A meal. He makes a makes this excuse me, huge meal, and he invites everybody to come to the meal, and he says he's going to make a meal. He wants everybody to be happy. Kiratzon ish v'ish. Everybody gets whatever they want. It says in the Gemara that he wanted to make Mordechai happy and Haman happy. Mordechai says ish v'ish. Mordechai is called ish Yehudi, and Haman is called ish tsar v'oyev. Haman is called the ish Yehudi. By the way, this is the first time that the Jews are called Yehudim. Jews. The name Jew comes from the Megillah of Esther. Jew, Yehudi. And even though Mordechai was from the tribe of Benjamin, he wasn't from Yehuda, but it's called the Ish Yehudi because it says he denied idolatry. Ish Yehudi. Haman, it says, is also called the Ish. He's called the Ish Tsar Boyev, a troublesome and an enemy. He was a person was a murderous enemy. Achashverosh wanted to make everybody happy, Mordechai and Haman. Now, this does not work. It says that Achashverosh was a stupid king. First of all, he was stupid because he took, when he killed his own wife, so he took everybody else's wives away from them to see maybe they were fitting for, so he made everybody mad. But also he was stupid because he really thought he could please Mordechai and Haman. Now, Mordechai wanted that the whole world should be according to the way the Creator wants. And Haman wants the whole world to be the way that he wants, not the way the Creator wants. So how can you make both of them happy? It's a foolish thing. And this is what the Rebbe is going to talk about tomorrow, that really that's what Moshiach is going to do. He's going to make everybody happy, but not exactly the way that Haman thought. But he will be happy, and we'll see how it's going to be done and how we can be partners in this amazing accomplishment. This is what we're going to see tomorrow. Now, let's do the Yom Yom. Today, we're going to do Yom Yom. I'll run a little bit further today. The classes are getting longer here.